Fast and firm and off and running. New week here at Gulfstream Park. In fact, 4 consecutive live racing cards coming your way, beginning with the Thursday action. Jason Blewett, Acacia Courtney joining you from our paddock studio set. The only thing hotter than the temperature, some of the trainers running horses here today, like Stanley Gold, back in action, and happy to be sitting next to you as we start a new week.
Thank you. Yes, it should be a fun one. And what was also hot and the talk of the town is, of course, that Rainbow Six carryover, $350,000 plus. That starts in the 5th race today on this 10-race card. And we've seen some great winners, some barns, and some jockeys really heating up and just putting those wins together in bunches, which is always fun to follow those trends.
And we'll be following trainer Ron Spatz, who's got one entered midway through the program, and a major player. I think Southern Sea, that horse's name, midway through this Thursday card. Bo Cash running Saturday up north, way up north in Saratoga Springs, in the co-featured Amsterdam on their big Saturday card as a logical and local prep to the King's Bishop. So we do have some Gulfstream horses to root for way north of us up in upstate New York. And as far as let's getting down to business, or us beginning things with the formalities on the show, let's just give you a rundown. Another Twilight Friday is upon us, and that coincides with a little Friday Beat the Expert, and you're up, Miss Acacia.
I am. You know, Jason, it's a lot of pressure. I'm going to be honest here. You had a great week last week. Actually, nobody beat the expert, so I have to make a good showing this week, but I'm trying to look intimidating. I don't know if it's really working, but we love when you play.
And we love when you're on Beat the Expert.
Yeah, exactly. So go over to our Facebook page, use the hashtag, let us know you're playing. Tomorrow, our first post is 2:15 for that Twilight Friday, so you must have your picks in by then.
Sounds pretty good. We'll have 9 races on the Friday card. The forecast looks terrific. A little Twilight action, and of course Saturday. This is a terrific annual Jockey's Day, PDJF Day across America, that is. It's always a mouthful, but the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund, a more than worthy cause. And Saturday throughout the United States will be PDJF Day across America, and you can dunk your favorite jockey for a good cause. You can't beat the $5 for 3 throws.
Yes, and these jockeys are athletes, and you brought up such a great point yesterday that the ambulance does follow them around the track, so have to take our hats off to them and show our thanks by dunking them in a tank, but all of the money does go to a wonderful cause.
Indeed it does, so please give. Now we'll turn our attention to what's on tap today. Again, 10 races, and we are fast and firm, chomping at the bit as we get back in the swing of things, and we'll do so beginning in the first, little after 1:15 p.m. with that dollar rolling super high 5, and of course that is the starting point for the first of 2 pick 5s on the program. 50 cents the minimum in Thursday's early pick 5, and that builds like a perfect crescendo into race number 5 with 2-year-old maiden claimers in the opening leg of the Rainbow Six.
Not an easy way to kick things off. We did have a couple of pretty key scratches in there as well, but $350,000 to start things off in that pool, just a 20-cent wager, and then we'll wrap it up with the late pick 5 right after that. So hopefully you don't get knocked out in that first leg, but even if you do, you always have the late pick 5 to lift your spirits up after that.
Such is the beauty of the game. We're always looking ahead, and let's get right into the action here, beginning with the opener at a little after 1:15 p.m., and that'll jumpstart your early pick 5. I'll give out a late ticket, and what are we doing, how much we using, and who are we using?
Well, we'll give you a look at my ticket here. That should be $36. $43.20 is the price for the Rainbow Six coming up, but using 2 deep to start things off, 3 horses in the second. Now, race number 3, I'm going to use 1 first-time starter and 1 with experience. The 3rd race today is a $50,000 2-year-old maiden filly race. I think Grand Lucky Girl should be really interesting, but backing myself up with the experience of Regal Romance. And as we get to the 4th race, you alluded to Southern Sea. There's also Without Remorse, both of them coming out of a couple of trouble trips, so I'll use both 2 deep in the 4th, and that 5th race, as we were talking about, it kicks off the Rainbow Six, but I think you want some coverage in there.
Did get more manageable with the scratches, and there are very few. I mean, scratches might be as easy as 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we had, when all told, 3 or 4 defections on the program today, and by our count, 98 entries spread throughout the 10 races prior to those 3 or 4 scratches. But again, the 5th race, losing the 3 Gorgeous Gal and the number 6 Tequila and Tacos, makes it perhaps a 3-horse race on paper. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. And again, that'll be the crossroads in both the Rainbow Six, the opening leg, and the cash out to Thursday's early pick 5, a sequence that begins with the crew in the first, a $10,000 3-and-up filly mare claimer on the main track at 1 mile. You're using 2 horses that I think will be favored by post as far as the first and second choices, and when it comes down to it, I think they're the right 2. What the 6, the Blonde, has going for her, and you picked her on top. This filly by Rockhampton, hands down the best operation and trainer in the first race today.
I agree with you, and that's one of the big reasons, and the jockey as well, the combination of Victor Barbosa Jr. and Emisel Jaramillo has been a very potent combo. They've teamed up for good wins together. High percentage barn in here. Tried the turf. Now, in any other ordinary circumstance, I have stopped picking the Blonde a long time ago, even though, of course, it was a little bit of a hunch bet for me. But she does have to step up. Today has to be the day for her. Her only mile on the dirt race, she was a distant 3rd, but she did run okay in that race. So hopefully with the surface switch, she has a little bit more seasoning now.
Yes, it's now or never. She will, I don't think, ever find a softer spot on the dirt to break her maiden, even for maiden 10 here in the summertime, and she clearly is a use for the top connections in the first. Narrowly, I put the 5, Still Beautiful, over her. They've all got to go a mile, I think, as D. Wayne Lucas once said famously with the Kentucky Derby. They can all go a mile and a quarter. Some will do it slower than others, and I'm hoping Still Beautiful has found the right field where she can stay on and kind of just plod away at 1 mile. I know she was blown off the track by a runaway winner last time out, but she did run well to finish 2nd, and keep in mind, she was well clear of the 3rd place runner and everybody else in the race. I'll take Still Beautiful in the first. You've got the Blonde. On to race number 2, we turf it here as we go 5 furlongs in this 2-lifetime 3-and-up claimer. Let's start Thursday's early pick 4 with a very competitive race. And as far as you and I agreeing on the exact in this one, we've got the 5, Daddy Duke, on top of the number 3. I go for greatness, and in a way, they look like the right 2 horses. And I think you've got kind of basic angles and quite a few of them in play with both the 5 and the 3. Starting out with Daddy Duke, it just for me boiled down to Steve Cosera's getting a solid race under this gelding's belt most recently, off of a layoff, and it was a lengthy layoff of over 6 months, and coming back some 40 days later today and just being a tighter horse all around.
It certainly could be. He's a 4-year-old gelding. It was about 8 months from October to June. Came off the layoff. I found from this barn, horses maybe do need a race or even 2, so it is a hesitant on-top pick in here. But I thought that he ran very well off of the layoff after a win back in October when adding the blinkers. They kept the blinkers on. Everything was the status quo coming back to the racetrack. And if you look at the short comment, he wasn't really as wide, I think, as it looks to believe. He was probably about 3 wide, but he was closing very strongly in the stretch. So that's why I did land on him. But the 3, I go for greatness, also off of a layoff, but now with Antonio Sano and going back to the turf, which is where his last win was. We have a stat for that as well. Antonio Sano, first after a trainer switch, 180-plus day layoff. Not a big sample size, Jason, but some really good numbers for him and a huge ROI that you don't normally get for Antonio Sano.
It's a very good move for the barn, a trainer that does obviously excellent work in these turf sprints, and again, grabbing horses first time out off a trainer change seems to seal the deal, and they also reach out and grab Edgar Zayas, a major player and a horse that's taking some money early on in the early double. We've got Tyler Gaffleone in his return to South Florida, riding the 2, God's Greatness. He'll be aboard a horse who is just 1 for 21, and no matter how it shakes out with Tyler's first mount on the day, good to see him back here in South Florida after a first ever Saratoga win last Monday.
Yes, congratulations, and of course exciting for us to be able to root for Gulfstream connections up at the spa as well. But as you said, God's Greatness, just 1 for 21 on form. Tyler's ridden this horse the last 3 races, and I think was certainly compromised by the outside post last time, but it was still okay. I had a little bit of interest in the 1, Grubert, who did kind of remind me of a horse I know you really liked the other day, and Foreman the 4-man, because I remember Dave Brady tried both of these horses around the same time on the turf. turf. There is turf on the bottom side of this one, and he has some speed, so we'll see how that works at a price.
All right, early double in the books. Let's move on to race number 3. 2-year-old filly, mid-priced, maiden claimers. The tags $50K across the board. We go with 6, no scratches. 4 firsters in this field of 6, meaning 2 have experience, including trainer Stanley Gold, who over the last month with his 2-year-olds exclusively at Gulfstream Park has got 4 wins from 15 horses being saddled. Amise Al Jaramillo rides the one Menage down on the rail, but I do think this race, when it's all said and done, will likely go to a first-time starter. They have the numbers, and again, the ones that have run, including Menage, have just been so-so. And we're taking a guess here that Victor Barboza's horse with Tyler Gaffalione in the 6th Grand Lucky Girl is going to be live today. Now, she was purchased right here at Gulfstream Park in that Fasig-Tipton March 2-year-old in training sale just a couple of months ago. She went for $40,000. It's a breeze we're going to show you. She had worked the furlong that day in 10-3, and you might expect, looking at this breeze, and the rider had to get into her a bit, and she was a bit green back and forth from her inside to her outside lead. But overall, with Gaffalione riding a filly who seems well spotted for the $50K first out, you would imagine she's going to bring some serious early speed to the mix and maybe just wire this third race field.
And you would think so, and you brought up the point I was exactly going to make, that the rider did kind of have to get after her a little bit. But look, she was purchased for $40,000. She's debuting for $50,000. It looks like she's well spotted in her start. And we do have a stat on Victor Barboza Jr. as well over the past 5 years with 2-year-old first-time starters. He's 6 for 20, so not a huge sample size, but really good numbers, and 12 for 20 in the money, more than a $4 ROI. The mare has already produced 6 winning foals, so there's certainly, I think, all reasons to believe she'll be live at first ask.
Yeah, not to belabor the point with the horse, who, by the way, is by McLean's Music, who's got his cloud computing, running against the Derby winner Always Dreaming Saturday at Saratoga in the Jim Dandy. That's a heck of a matchup, and we'll be watching here at Gulfstream Park. But we'll give you a quick rundown as far as the family and even the pinhook price regarding Grand Lucky Girl. And this horse was a modest yearling purchase last fall for 27 G's. Again, aforementionedly sold for $40K as a 2-year-old in training here in March. Dam's up there in age, but she has been a prolific producer as well. And not to spend too much time on a field where there is some guesswork, Acacia, you've got also the 5 Faithful Sue, a firster by Factum for trainer Kathleen O'Connell, and you've got the number 3 Regal Romance in second after running against a good field first time out.
Very good field. She was beaten by the Pledger filly Bernadetta. Unfortunately, Blonde Bomber in her next start came back to do very little running at all. I know you were a big fan.
Huge fan.
Unfortunate performance from her. And the short comment is that Regal Romance hopped at the start, and she kind of did, but she really just like shot out of the gate. So we'll see what she does today. I wouldn't be surprised if she showed some speed either.
Yeah, very good point after chasing inside. Most recently, C.J. McMahon rides her. On to race number 4, 3-and-up, $20,000 maiden claimers. 7.5 furlongs on the turf. We go with 10 in the body of the field, and very comparable trips between the 3 Without Remorse, who we looked at on yesterday's late in our Wednesday edition of Gulfstream Weekly, which is up on the Gulfstream Park website. If you want to check it out, it's up on our YouTube channel as well. It was a fun show again with Acacia and myself, and definitely check it out, actually, even if you're handicapping on the side. And that horse was pretty much blind switched, just like the number 9 Southern Sea. And we'll take you back to that Summit of Speed Day on July 1st, a big field of 12 most recently for Southern Sea, who we've got highlighted, who pulled a pretty good trip, covered up down towards the inside, mid-pack. Now, Tyler Gaffalione decides he wants to commence his rally right above the top of the stretch, 3/16 pole. He's trying to get outside, but that horse in the black cap kind of closes the door, and then you've got Southern Sea, who's got to grind away and plot away and fight his way to the lead or close to it down on the inside. And very much a case, and you see horses for the most part are just more comfortable moving towards the outside. And all in all, I thought a very solid effort from a horse who's just a very logical player and not going to pay a good price if he wins today's 4th.
I agree with you, and he is off of that performance. I thought that was definitely his strongest race. Now, I think I kind of wonder if he's the kind of horse that's just more comfortable when he gets to the lead and doesn't have to deal with those kinds of mishaps, and maybe that would have avoided some of the trouble that he did have. But I thought he held very gamely on the rail there, which, just looking at his action and his kind of attitude going in the stretch, never really looked comfortable. It was certainly a similar thing for Without Remorse. The reason I gave the slight nod to this one is that he is dropping in class, and I think Luca Panici, just an excellent judge of the way the pace is going to play out. This one had been in a spot, a very uncomfortable spot in between horses, and it tried to go outside, just totally shut off in a similar way. So we'll see if just facing the tougher company gives him an edge.
And good connections with Michelle Nihei and Luca Panici, a very solid trainer-jockey combination. And speaking of cloud computing, this coming Saturday up in the Jim Dandy, you've got Klarovich and Bill Lawrence, their familiar red and white silks. On my top selection, who you've got capping your try, the number 6 Contraction, who might be best viewed as a wise guy wild card. And a wise guy wild card for the obvious reasons. I mean, clearly this gelding by Speightstown is not a dirt horse, and he showed nothing in his debut on this circuit for Terry Pompey against Special Weight Company. His 2 turf races last year as a 2-year-old, or I should say a 3-year-old, up in the Big Apple, were respectable efforts. I await with bated breath to see if we get the good Contraction, and I'll be curious to hear what you have to say about him getting a look at Contraction in the walking ring.
I'll be interested to see him as well. He's now second off the layoff. He's out of a graded stakes winning mare, who was a 5-time turf winner, so there's certainly reason to believe that this is his stronger surface, but we'll just have to see if he can recapture some of that
I'll be anxious to hear if he's improved at all since you first laid eyes on him last month. And with the first 4 down, it's all about Thursday's Rainbow Six, $350,000 plus. We'll talk about it on the other side of this quick timeout.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet, we are racing.
Hey, South Florida, it's time to get social at sunset. This summer at Gulfstream Park, as the sun goes down, the scene heats up. Join us each week for Twilight Racing Fridays, a fusion of horse racing, food and drink specials, and live performances by local bands. Enter drawings and play horse racing bingo, your chance to win incredible prizes. Live racing begins at 2:15. Admission and parking are free. Visit GulfstreamPark.com for more details. Gulfstream Park, Twilight Racing Fridays. Get social at sunset.
4 down as we chase the rainbow on this live Thursday edition of Gulfstream Today. It is Acacia Courtney and Jason Blewett joining you on a sunny and warm Thursday in Hallandale Beach. And again, the racing action and the temperature very hot, but that Rainbow Six pool might be even hotter as we chase it today. And what are we doing?
Oh, as I said in the break, I went to the Ron Nicoletti School of Rainbow Six. Ticket price is $43.20 today, but I think it's, and I mentioned this a couple times before, it's a tough sequence. It
Very
is
hard.
But there's lots of opportunity for some good prices, some values. I don't think that it's necessarily going to be a sea of chalk in here. So that's always fun to play, especially with that great carryover. 3 deep to start things off in that maiden 12-5 for the 2-year-olds. As we get to the maiden 25, I think Bleeding Heart and Manuscript are the big 2 in the 6, just using 2 deep in the 6 as well. Mr. Sam could be a potential single in there. I'll back it up with American Czar. 8th race, I think I wanted 3 in here, as I like Sistine Sista. She's got to prove herself today. To me, I think the best horses are actually on the outside, but they have to deal with that post. 2 deep in the 9th and 3 in the nightcap, $43.20.
And you've got Marty Wolfson and Ralph Zadie both having horses off layoffs in race 9, and they are the only 2 that I used in my late pick 5, which we'll show you after we pick our way through race number 5. And again, big fields today. We average a little over 9 horses per race on the card. We did have a couple of defections, however, out of the 5th, and they certainly changed the complexion, losing Gorgeous Gal in the 6th, Tequila and Tacos. And with them out, though, the silver lining is it's a much more manageable race, and it clearly, I think, boils down. And, of course, there could be an upset or a big price long shot looming, and if you like one of them, best of luck to you. But between Chasing Magic, the 9 Total Treasure, and the Ralph Zadie, speaking of that barn, they've got one here on the outside, and the 10 Tomo.
They do. I I landed on the number 9, Total Treasure. It's certainly a lot of guesswork as she did absolutely no running on the turf and in special weight with the blinkers on last time. So they change everything and go back to where they started. She debuted for the tag on the main track. There was some moisture in the track that day, so this will be her first time on the fast track, but she gets that drop. And actually her first career start was in a very strong race. 2-timing girl came back to win. Actually strong race on the turf as well. So thinking in terms of what she's faced, that could be the key for her.
And the Treasure Beaches,
yes.
We've had 4 of them win so far here at Gulfstream this meet. And I think he's only had 12 or 13 two-year-olds. Very few. It's pretty incredible the start he's gotten off at. We'll see if he gets another maiden winner with your top selection, the 9 Total Treasure. You're likely getting some speed from the 7 Chasing Magic. And I'm hoping for just classic second out improving with the 10 Tomo, who what complicates matters for me with this filly by Poseidon's Warrior is you don't really know if this horse was very live first out at 5-2 or was it just money for Ralph Zadie and Edgar Zayas. We'll learn a bit more today. And Poseidon's Warrior, by the way, had an upset winner of last Saturday's Sanford Stakes at Saratoga. So you got a couple of freshman stallions who have done good work so far in this 2-year-old racing season, and we're not even through July. Race number 6 begins the late pick 5. Very much a case of the second half of the card, and we'll turf it here with the 3-and-up filly mare, $25,000 maiden claimers. Keisha said it best. This is a very tough card, and you'll be hard-pressed, I think, to come up with a single. For better or for worse, I'm going to stand alone with Mr. Sam in race number 7. Very much a case of market strength, who won from here to GPW last Sunday. They share so many similarities. So he is the anchor that I built this ticket around off of. You've got Bleeding Heart out of a key race and Gaffleone riding my other horse in race number 6. The 8th race, that is the one with Sistine Sister, who I think in the talent department is the best and most honest horse. She's got to win one of these. Today's the day. It's now or never for her. I will never, ever, ever, ever pick her again for 25 on the turf if she can't seal the deal from post 2, when a number of her key contenders and well-connected contenders got saddled with outside post. Again, it's all about the fresh Ralph Zadie and Wolfson layoff runners in race number 9 for me. And I like the last race, even though we lost the number 5 horse Golden Point, who scratched out of today's last to run in what looks like a slightly easier spot on Saturday's card. It's still a quality-filled cash out, and I hope we get there, and I hope you get there as well, Acacia. Now, when talking about the 6th, man, I don't want to call this a two-horse race, but you start picking your way through the field. You've got your top selection, Bleeding Heart, and you can elaborate on the field and her last out effort here on June 30th, what that bodes for today's contest, and the 9 Manuscript, who, let's go back in a well-bet debut. This daughter of Tisway with CW Forest riding, opened up very short, wound up drifting up to 5-1, and the good boys upstairs have got her highlighted. You can watch the drive that she put forth and commence from the quarter pole home, and a case of her, even though they tried to get the money, and I've got to think this was a very shrewd training job getting her legged up for this debut for maiden 12-5. So very, very good effort beneath a rider that I had just never heard of. Today, even with this race exposing a filly who seems legitimately placed for the maiden 25, she's just, I think, the horse to beat off a very solid debut, getting turned back by a 4-5 favorite, and the fact that Tyler G sees fit to ride.
You can't ignore the jockey change at all. What I do kind of question is, yes, it is technically a step up in class, but that being said, I don't think this is the hardest $25,000 race you're going to find. But that being said, I thought that she was game, she was closing strongly, definitely a bit green, a little bit confused, had to be reminded a couple times in the stretch, and I would have obviously liked to see a little bit more follow through as they got down to the wire. But again, you can't ignore the jockey change. She's certainly going to be live in here. I just landed on the number 2 Bleeding Heart, who I think just comes out of the strongest race in the field, and that's what really turned it for me. There were actually 4 next out winners from that race, including the winner Conquest Sorcerer, who came back with a 59 Beyer speed figure, so an improvement. Cape Fear got a 63 next time. So a lot of, I think, good things from that race for a horse that does have a seasoning edge.
Pretty incredible looking at 4 next out winners from that cast back on June 30th. And Bleeding Heart had a good inside trip and put in that inside run. She may very much find today's field, the competition in race 6, to her liking. Race number 7 begins Thursday's late pick 4. 6250 bottom level claimers on the main track. They will battle 1 mile, and it might be a case of just beginning and ending with the number 6, Mr. Sam. And again, we say this with Market Strength's Daylight Victory taking a very similar drop down here Sunday in our minds.
Yes, and as I said earlier, I will remember Market Strength because I tried to pick against him, and that didn't work out. So I'm not going to pick against Mr. Sam.
You wise guy.
I was trying to be a wise guy. It's in my nature to try. I'm going to take the chalk this time, though. But Mr. Sam actually has been pretty strong on the turf. No kick last time out at all. It was kind of uncharacteristic, so the surface switch and the drop does actually make sense in here. We'll show a stat on Armando de la Cerda as well. In the past 5 years, going from turf to dirt with low-level claimers, he's 7 for 10, and an unbelievable ROI. There must have been some big prices in there. You won't get a big price on Mr. Sam, but obviously the barn knows what he's doing in here.
Yeah, this is a move that Armando, who's had a good year, real breakout year in 2017 for Midwest and a few other owners that he trains for, but clearly a move he's got figured out. I would imagine they want to win this race and lose him for the 6250. His main threat might just be the number 8 American Czar, who was claimed most recently off Victor Barboza Jr. by trainer Angel Quiroz, but he really doesn't waste much time in running him back. In fact, it's been about 2.5 weeks, and he'll look to pair up victories.
And he does normally send horses back to the track very quickly, but I just remember American Czar's win last time out. I mean, this horse was like a monster, just on the muscle and looked so great. So I would expect nothing less today. I looked at the horse that you used, the 3 Gadsby Tavern, for quite a while. Ended up going elsewhere because he is stepping up after the non-winners of 2. But that was a nice win last time.
I thought he ran really well, and he was another. They bet him early, kind of drifted up as we got closer to post time, and we'll see. Tough game, and you think about the ebb and flows no matter what your skin in the game is, but Gerald Bennett, who won a lot of races here during the spring and early summer meet, not on a great run thus far. We'll see if he can turn it around today, getting that elusive win photo. Race number 8 on the card is a 2-turn, 7.5 furlong race. These are 3 and up, filly and mare, $25,000 claimers, and we kind of joked about it a little tongue-in-cheek, but we're not in love with Sistine Sister. We might look foolish both picking her on top if she loses yet another time as a beaten favorite. But as far as drawing posts and the luck of the draw, she benefited greatly here, getting the 2-stall beneath Miguel Vasquez, who continues to ride in good form. And she's coming out of a tough loss, but a real game resolute loss. This was just a head bob in which she just lost the bob by a whisker on the line. I also thought the number 8 that day, Admiral's Win, ran pretty well. Now, in the case of Sistine Sister, never really had a breather on the front end, as she is down in there in the Calabrese colors of black and white and the white blinkers, and she just fought hard every step of the way. And you can also see the number 8 horse with the pink saddle towel. That is Admiral's Win, who didn't save much ground around the far turn. She stayed on in this race, but as far as Sistine Sister goes, off this game loss where she did not give an inch and lost a tough one, give her one more chance in here in race number 8. And clearly, and it might be narrowly, you agree?
I do. Well, she has the better post, as we were saying before, not to belabor the point. She can be the speed from the inside. There is some speed to her outside, especially looking at Tiuna, who is always on the front end and just looks more comfortable there. The horse that really intrigues me, and I was fascinated to see we had the same exact as the 11 Ventina, who's been working exceptionally well. We have a stat on trainer Bobby DeBona as well. First off the claim on the turf with horses in the money last time out. He's 6 for 25, nearly half of the time in the money. Now, it is a negative ROI, as these kinds of horses usually do take money for a high percentage barn. This horse is stepping up, but she's just been in incredible form lately. And I think that Carlos Montalvo actually has some very smart rides we've seen from him as well. And again, the work tab, really intrigued by this one.
Yeah, Pete Aiello actually turned me on to Carlos Montalvo here during Preakness weekend, doing Gulfstream today with him. And I first got accustomed to Carlos riding in New York. It's kind of a different game, especially at this time of the year. And he's been very smart on the turf. awesome ride on a very smart tactical ride on Catholic Boy. Won and broke his mane for Jonathan Thomas last week. Another trainer we caught up with on Gulfstream Weekly, which is on our website. Hope you check it out. Race number 9 on the card. Last dirt race today, and our second to last leg in this big Rainbow Pick 6 carryover. 6.5 furlongs on the main. These are 3 and up. Filly Mare 12-5. Claiming horses, and in talking about the big 2, so to speak, you've got Liberty Road, who's coming in off a near 70-day layoff for Marty Wolfson, and the 5 Tulesa, who hasn't run in just under 100 days for Ralph Zadie. I have a feeling for one of these 2 barns, we've got the winner lurking in our top 2.
I think it's between these 2, and you mentioned it earlier on in the show that you have a couple of fresh horses coming off of a little bit of a layoff, but have been in very good form prior to that, and they're both top barns. Now, I landed on the number 2, Liberty Road, because I think that she has the potential to be the controlling speed. There is some natural speed with the 5 Tulesa, but she was showing that speed, and not to knock that kind of form, but the kind of races that she was running back in 2016, I just don't think it was against as tough company. Looking back at, I mean, she was winning in bunches, but again, I just think that this is perhaps a little bit of a tougher spot, whereas Liberty Road has been running consistently at this level, did win 12-5 condition claimers by 5 lengths last time, I thought, against a solid field.
All right, 6.5 she gets today. I don't think 6 is really her game. I think 6.5 a better fit for Liberty Road, even that extra half a furlong. She'll get that from Marty Wolfson and Jorge Ruiz from post number 2. It's 2-5, 5-2 for occasion myself. Otherwise, we'll be tearing up those Rainbow and late pick 5 tickets. I hope we get to the cash out here. It's a good one, and we hope you stay tied on through all 10 today, as we are scheduled to wrap up at around 6:30 as far as the live racing action goes at GP. And we end things with a $10,000 claimer at 7.5 furlongs. Major defection again, the 5 Golden Point, who was cross-entered in a comparable spot on Saturday. But I think the connections took a look at those PPs and said, you know what, today's 10th, it's a slightly tougher field. So we will await Golden Point to run here on Saturday. Now, he would have been coming out of the same race as the number 3 Rizwan, who you and I both have 4th capping our super. I do think Rizwan's last effort was a very good one, and a case of him not having really any sort of racing luck. Now, Golden Point wound up winning this race with a more patient ride. But in the case of Rizwan, he's the number 11 horse, and they'll make that run. They'll start that run into the far turn. If we could just pause it there, guys. Rizwan is the horse here on the outside. He will put in a very premature run into that far turn. Let me just see. This isn't working. Let's... Nope, Telestrate is not working, but that's okay. Whatever. We can roll the tape. Just watch the number 11 horse, and he'll put in a very premature run into the far turn. That forced the number 4 Dominate to move early in the Purple Silks. And considering Rizwan tried to blow the race open around the far turn like this, I thought it was a very solid effort that he was only beaten 2 and change after breaking from a very tough outside post.
It was, and he did move early. You can see him with the big white face there. He's easy to follow on the screen, and he did kind of fade a bit as they got down to the stretch, and I think it was that he had expended and maybe kind of emptied the tank a little bit, moving around that far turn. That being said, I like Rizwan. I've always respected the horse, but it's been a long time since he's seen the winner's circle, and that's not the case with the 2 Little John W., who's coming off 2 back-to-back victories. Interestingly enough, he won at the 16 non-winners of 2. They dropped him into the $10,000 tag last time, but he got another win. I think he has a versatile running style as well. He's come from off the pace in his last 2, but he has one showing speed on the turf as well. So I love that versatility and did scratch into him.
Would like to see him more positionally placed, because he's kind of a one-pace grinder who doesn't really have that giddy-up-and-go punch. He's kind of just a stayer, and clearly he is really clicking these days with trainer Reed Nagel. So that'll do it. 10 up, 10 down for Acacia and myself on Gulfstream today. We thank you for joining us here at Gulfstream Park, and keep it locked here to GP. Pete Aiello, the voice of this historical racetrack, is coming up on the set with your Thursday Scratches and Changes.